Driver is showing some obscure driving, possibly intoxicated. Currently doing 45 miles an hour. Zone through here is 25. Oh! Subject just hit the curb. Correction, speed limit is 15. You want to place your vehicle into park and go ahead and turn it off for me?
Yeah, sure.
No, park?
Oh, it is in park, yeah.
Okay, turn off your engine. Go ahead and set your keys on the dash for me, alright? What's your guys' names?
Gabby.
I'm Brian.
Gabby, Brian? Okay. What's going on? How come you're crying?
I'm sorry, we've just been fighting this morning. Some personal issues.
I'm sorry I hit the bump there.
I was distracting him from driving, I'm sorry.
Can I get you to step out of the vehicle for me, man?
Yeah.
Just hang tight right there. Do you mind if I take your keys and just put them on your hood?
You got it, buddy. I'm so
Thank
sorry.
you. Oh, no, you're fine. I'm going to go ahead and close your door, okay? Why don't you come over here? SO229, I have the female that was on the passenger seat separated from the male. Keys are on the hood. You want to tell me what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, some days I have really bad OCD, and
Okay.
I was just cleaning and straightening up the back of the van before, and I was apologizing to him and saying, I'm sorry that I'm so mean, because sometimes I have OCD, and sometimes I just get really frustrated. Not like mean towards him, I just like, I guess my vibe is like, I hear him be like in a bad mood. And I was just saying, I'm sorry if I'm in a bad mood. I've just been really stressed. I had so much work I was doing on my computer this morning.
What do you do for a living?
Well, I used to work at an all-organic juice bar, but I just quit my job.
Okay.
I was a nutritionist. That was my
That's
job.
cool.
And I just quit my job to travel across the country. And I'm trying to start a blog. I just have a blog and stuff. So I've been building my website. So I've just been really stressed. And he doesn't really believe that I could do any of it. So that's kind of been like a, I don't know, he's like down there. I don't know. We've just been fighting all morning. And he wouldn't let me in the car before. And then
Why wouldn't he let you in the car? Because of
told me
your OCD?
told me I needed to calm down. Yeah. But I'm perfectly calm. I'm calm all the time. And he really stresses me out. And this is a rough morning.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't I sit you down in the back seat of my car? You're not in any trouble, okay? I'm not going to be putting handcuffs on you.
I'm just going to pause the video here and make a few comments. So we see that the car was pulled over for reportedly obscure driving and speeding. And then as the car was pulling over, it unexpectedly hit the curb. When the police officer, who I should mention is calm, professional, alert, calls for backup, is reassuring, quite consoling in a way, approaches the vehicle, you can see immediately that Gabby is highly distressed. Brian, however, is not. And we'll look at some video in a moment where he's actually incongruent in his presentation. Given the situation is a distressing and volatile one, Brian actually presents with humour, a calmness, even smiling and joking, some inappropriate and emotionally immature jokes that you'll see. But Gabby is very distressed. She immediately apologises to the officer for the car hitting the bump and takes responsibility for it. She says that she was distracting Brian and apologises. Now, she could have been protecting the abuser in domestic violence. That's very common. She could be excusing his behaviour and taking the blame, and there may be an element of that. But my impression from when I watch further into the video is that she absolutely did hit Brian, and she has inadvertently pulled the wheel either directly or by grabbing his arm. But her admission that she was distracting him is honest and accurate. When she's asked what's going on, she blames herself again. She has OCD, that she has a bad vibe, a bad mood, that she's stressed and under pressure. You'll notice her speech is rapid and her affect is distressed and anxious. She talks about him, Brian, not letting her in the car, and we find out later that Brian also admits to that. Gabby has said she has OCD, and we learned that she was quite fastidious and overwhelming in her behaviour. And OCD can be like that. It's an anxiety condition. It's overwhelming, and the body goes into this hypervigilance and stress response. If someone is stopping you from your attempt to restore order, and in Gabby's case, that was Brian not cleaning his feet or tidying the back of the van, then it can feel overwhelming, and some may lash out.
You want to tell me about those scratches on your face?
She had a cell phone in her hand. That's why I was pushing her away, because she wanted I locked the keys so I could walk away. I said, let's just take a breather and let's not go anywhere. Let's just calm down for a minute, because she was getting a little worked up. And then she had her phone and was trying to get the keys from me, so I got in the way. I was just trying to, I know I shouldn't push, but I was just trying to push her away to go, let's just take a minute, step back and breathe. And she got me with her phone.
Can I see your hand? Oh, you got a mark right here.
Oh, that's from a wire.
That's from a wire?
Yeah.
You want to tell me about hitting that curb?
Hitting the curb was her grabbing the wheel.
She grabbed the wheel?
Yeah. She said, I can't believe we're getting pulled over, and then she grabbed the wheel.
Well, to be honest, I don't think.
Where'd you hit him? You slapped him first? It's on his face? He just grabbed you? Did he hit you though? I mean, it's okay if you're saying you hit him, but I understand if he hit you, but we want to know the truth. If he actually hit you. Because, where did he hit you? Don't worry. Be honest.
So just pausing the video for a moment again and having a look at what we can conclude from both Gabby and Brian's consistent testimony. And both say that Gabby was the primary aggressor. And the police also conclude that later in this video. They also note that Brian did not hit Gabby, that Gabby actually hit Brian and was either punching him or moving his arm or pulling the wheel to cause the car to hit the curb. Brian clearly has some minor scratches and injuries on his neck, his cheek and his arm, but he doesn't want Gabby to get into trouble for this, and he is dismissive of the injuries and says he's okay, that he loves Gabby.
Do you mind lifting up your right sleeve for me? I'm curious about something.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's a
what's
little bit
that
of nails. I suppose fingernails, but
Yeah,
I'm not complaining.
absolutely.
I'm not complaining about
Is it
fingernails.
bruised or tender or anything like
No.
that? Okay.
I'm fine, and I love Gabby. I hope she doesn't have too many complaints about me.
Both denied taking any medication or drinking alcohol or consuming any substances, but both agree that they were fighting that morning. They both also suggest that the catalyst to the argument was Gabby's OCD, and that the back of the van was being messed up, or Brian was moving things around, which triggered Gabby. Brian also apparently had dirty feet, which was also a trigger for Gabby, and she became distressed and reactive and emotionally volatile. Whilst it might seem like a minor event, for someone with OCD, that event, the disordered van and the dirty feet, could have enormous additional stress, embarrassment and shame for Gabby, and it probably added more fuel to the fire. What I do find interesting is that Brian is acting like he's covering something. It may be as simple as trying to cover his small injuries because he doesn't want Gabby to get into trouble. He seems extra nice, apologetic. He seems to be downplaying their conflict. And he's incongruent with his mannerisms in this situation, which is quite a distressing and uncertain situation. Yet he smiles and he jokes and he sometimes says some inappropriate things. For instance, he laughs when he's told he's the victim of domestic assault and that they're going to consider charging Gabby. He's possibly nervous and he's probably thinking that the police's reaction is unnecessary. And then he jokes about taking the police radio, and he laughs when he's told he's not going to jail because he's done nothing wrong, because he's the victim. So he jokes and mocks and says, well, I'll take your radio. He also says he'll get rid of any court papers, and this seems to be relatively childish and emotionally immature behaviour given the situation. But it is all of this that helps me predict what might have happened. Let's look at a bit more.
Get away from both of them. So, he said that he never saw the male strike the female. He saw the male trying to lock her out of the vehicle. She even told us that he was trying to lock her out, told her to go take a walk, so that she was trying to get in. She eventually couldn't get in and actually clawed her way in through the driver's door. He says, I don't understand why she's doing that. Well, I think it's because it was the only door that wasn't locked that she could get through. She's trying to get in over him. He's trying to disengage from her. I guess he hung her backpack on the back probably so she would have her shit so that he didn't have to engage with her. Everything she's saying is the same thing. I haven't heard what he said, but if that's what he said, it's also what the witness is saying. The witness says, I never saw him hit her. I saw him shove her, but I couldn't tell if it was an aggression against her or a defense against her as far as her, being the aggressor. So at this point, unless the guy's screaming that he needs to go to jail and did something to this girl, it sounds to me like she is the primary aggressor.
Yeah.
So at this point, you're the victim of a domestic assault. That even if you didn't want to pursue this, we don't have a choice. Now I don't want to take this small 20. What is she?
He's a 22-year-old
blonde hair,
blue-eyed to jail. Can I go to jail?
You can't because we don't have a charge for you. Now tomorrow, if you wanted to be with her again tomorrow,
I'm gonna take your radio.
if you want to be with her again, for example, if you're not willing to pursue it, that's your decision.
I was gonna say, it definitely is. I'm not gonna pursue anything. I'm just gonna say I love her. It's possible. I'm sorry that I had to get so public.
Police then attempt to take the least punitive measures, but they acknowledge that domestic violence offences are equal for male or female, irrespective of the gender of the aggressor. They stop just short of giving Gabby a way out of this situation.
Gabby, this is a very, very important question. How you answer this question is going to determine what happens next. But the only person who can answer this question is you. Think very hard before you answer the question. Do not quickly answer it. Think very hard. When you slapped him those times, were you attempting to cause him physical pain or physical impairment? Was that what you were attempting to do to him?
No.
What were you attempting to do? What was the reason behind the slapping and stuff? What was it you were attempting to accomplish by slapping?
I was trying to get him to stop telling me to calm down.
Well, it doesn't sound to me like she attempted to injure him. It's your call. This is 100% your call. I support you either way.
I'll let you get back to your parents, okay?
And if there's some fighting going on, you already was Mr. Nice Guy. You already gave him a chance. What you can't do by law is separate someone and say, if we hear from you again, we're going to arrest one of you. Because then if one of them really needs help, they may not call police and get help. The law says you cannot, literally, you may not say, if we get more problems with you guys tonight, one of you is going to jail. You can't threaten like that. Right. It's true because it stops you from wanting to call the police to get help. Does that make sense?
Right.
He doesn't want to pursue it. She's not a threat to him, more than slight abrasions from her fingernails. I don't care if we use the actual letter of the law to not charge, but I also don't care because it literally does possibly make perfect sense to go full-on domestic assault and do the whole thing.
And here is where I think we have enough information to make a prediction about what might have happened. It's just speculation. I do not know, of course, but past behaviour is always a good predictor of future behaviour. And I think the police actually made the ultimate prediction, and neither Gabby or Brian called them again. It's very likely that their arguing and their fighting continued. It seems clear her mental health was suffering, she was vulnerable, and my best guess is the involvement of the police on the occasion we've just watched escalated her distress and her frustration and maybe her embarrassment and shame as well. We know her OCD resulted in impulsive outbursts, and we know Brian defended himself and he's pushed and he's shoved Gabby back in defence. It's possible that their arguing escalated to a new level of intensity, resulting in either intentional or accidental death of Gabby. Halfway through making this video, I've learned that Gabby's body has potentially been discovered and Brian remains missing. And what is inexplicable is Brian's silence in this. He returned from his trip without Gabby and he isn't speaking. Now, whilst a lawyer might support that and suggest that, it is very suspicious and it's really hard to overlook that there's an implication of guilt in the decision to stay silent. I think if we're going to speculate, it's possible Brian might have choked, strangled or suffocated Gabby in retaliation or even defense maybe. Or perhaps he's pushed her too hard and she's fallen and she's hit her head or become unconscious. This kind of harm or injury makes sense and it's consistent with the behaviour that we've seen in this video, although I'm not privy to a lot of the background information or other content, so I'm only speculating. Brian may have felt guilty, he might have felt remorseful, and I do believe he loved her, and it's possible he's now gone somewhere, and I'm wondering if it's to end his own life. An impulsive act that, with his level of immaturity, he may think will atone for his sins. I think whatever the outcome, this is a tragic story. And the police in this video did an amazing job. I hope they know that their professionalism and their compassion shone through. Mental illness, anxiety, OCD, and even severe stress are treatable conditions, and I do hope in time the truth of this story is revealed and the legacy of Gabby finds a way to live on and help others.